Good evening, Bershus, and with the permission of friends old and new, tonight we continue with the dictums of Rabbi Akiva, the famous Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Isai, Ma hoyot chiloso shel Rabbi Akiva? What was the beginning of Rabbi Akiva? Ben arboim shana velo shina. Of the Rabbi Nosson tells us he was 40 years old and he never learned. And what happened when he was 40 years old? The Rabbi Nosson tells us avonim shachaku kamayim, that water dripped onto a stone. So everybody interprets this particular passage that when water dripped into a stone, that the density that he'd had and learned in over 40 years, and since the water made an impression in the rock, therefore it'll make an impression in me, Akiva reasoned. Ma'azedi out of Naiman Zatzal, famed Talmud of the Briskerov, he said, that's not the pshat, Rabbi Isai, in the beginning of Rabbi Akiva. And what is the definition of avonim shachaku kamayim, that the water made a depression? It impressed itself into the stone? Now you see, Rabbi Akiva, he was a little smarter than that. He was smarter than the average Joe, though he was unschooled. You see, he reasoned to himself that if water over time can make an indentation in the rock, then so too learning can make an impression in my brain. No, Ma'azedi says, that too is not the pshat. No, you see, Ma'azedi, Arab Naiman Zatzal, he said the following, Avonim shachaku kamayim, that the first drop had to have made an impression. Otherwise, the second drop wouldn't have made an impression. He realized that the very first drop, no matter how infinitesimally small, still made an indentation and an impression upon the face of the stone. So too reasoned Rabbi Akiva that not after a lot of time will learning come to be imbued within me the stone of my body that is unschooled for 40 years. Rather, the first aleph will have an impression. And that is the beginning of our famous Rabbi Akiva. The famous Rabbi Akiva who says, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha zeh klal gadol b'Torah. Love your friend as yourself. This is a principle. It is an axiom. It is a principle of the Torah. It's the principle. So let's learn about what Rabbi Akiva says in our Mishnah, Mishnah 18, Yud Ches, in the third parak. Who are you? He used to say, Chaviv שנברא בצלם. Wow. Beloved is man, that he was created in the image of God. Chiba Yisera nodas lo שנברא בצלם. Great love was made known to him, made known to mankind, that he was created in the image of God. Shenema, as it says, Ki b'tzelem Elokim asa Adam. Because in the image of God, man was created. Xavivim Yisrael Shenikru Vanim Lamokam. Beloved is Klal Yisrael, that they are called sons of God. Chiba Yisera Nodas Lahem, and great love was bestowed upon them. Shenikru Vanim Lamokam Shenemar, as it says, Bonim Atem Hashem Lekechem. You are sons of God, your God. Xavivim Yisrael, and beloved is Klal Yisrael Shenitan lahem klei Chemda, that God gave them a precious gift. Chiba Yisera nodas lahem Shenitan lahem klei Chemda shebo nivra ha'olam, that it was the world was created with it. And how is the world created with it? We'll get to later. Shenamar ki lekach tov nosati lochem toirosi al ta'azovu. For I gave you a good thing, a good and precious thing. Toirasi al tazovu. Don't forsake my Torah. So the Chofetz Chaim comes along and says, al tazovu doesn't mean forsake it. He says, don't let it go. Hold on to the Torah. It's yours. Love it. Chaviv, it's beloved. Chibuv. Love the Torah. Don't let it go. If you love something, you don't let them go. Now, boys, there are three essential maxims that Rabbi Akiva is teaching us in this Mishnah. One, Chaviv Adam Shenivra B'Tzelem, beloved is man that he was created in the image of God. Ki B'Tzelem Elokim Osas Adam. As the Pasuk says that man was created in the image of God. 2. Xavivin Yisrael Shenikru Bonim Lamakam. That Klal Yisrael are beloved to God because they're called the sons of God. Bonim Atem Hashem Lokechem. Because you are sons of God. And 3, the third dictum, the third maxim that Rabbi Akiva is coming to teach us here. Xavivin Yisrael Shenitan Lahem Klei Chemda. That God gave us a precious gift. Ki lekach toiv nosati lachem al ta'azu. These 3 dictums, the sayings, the aphorisms of Rabbi Akiva come as a complete contradiction, contrary to and the opposite of what was said at the beginning of our parak in the 3rd parak. And who was the author of the beginning of the 3rd parak? Akavia ben Mahalalel. Akavia and Akiva come to have a machlokes. Akavia ben Mahalalel, what did he say? He's talked to B'Shloshit Devarim. Look upon 3 things, gaze upon 3 things, and you will not come to sin. What's the first one? Da me'ayin bosa. Know from whence you came. And where do you come? Where does a person emanate from, according to Akavia ben Mahalalel? Miti pasrucha, from a putrid drop. And what was the second thing that Akavia ben Mahalalel said? Where are you going? Oh boy. What does Akavia say? Lemokam ofa rima v'soleya, to a decaying and dying, rotten grave. V'lifnei atah din v'cheshbon, and where are you going ultimately in life? To the place that there will be a reckoning in your life, where God sits in judgment with you. Says the Medrash Shmuel, Akiva here is coming as the direct opposite of everything that Akavia said. Notice the similarity between the 2 names, Akavia and Akiva. Be that as it may, Rabbi Akiva here disputes. He digresses, he demurs from Akavia ben Mahalalel. Comes along Akiva and says, no, I'm sorry. Instead of pondering your birth, that your birth comes from a putrid trap, contemplate the glory that you were created in the image of God. Instead, rather than dwell on the macabre thought that one day you will end as rotting, decaying corpse in the grave, instead comes Akiva in our mission, and he says, remember that you are a child, you're a son of God, endowed with eternity from the eternal himself. And 3, comes along Akiva and he says, Rabbi Akiva, rather than worry about a day of reckoning all the days of your life, Rabbi Akiva advises all to concentrate on the positive aspects of religion, the performance of mitzvahs. The goal, Rabbi said, the mission, the point of it all is that we, mankind, must adhere to the principle of imitatio Deo, the imitation of God, and emulate his ways. And how does one emulate the ways of God? Rabbi said, the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Kuf Lamed Gimel tells us, Mahu chanon v'rachum, just like he is kind and compassionate, that God is Avato Yochanon v'rachum. You too should be kind and compassionate. The Gemara in Soita tells us, Mahu malbish arumim, just like God, he dressed the naked. Avata malbish, so you should clothe the poor. Mahakadosh Baruch Hu Pirkei Avot, just like God visited the sick when he came to Avram Avinu after his milah. Avata, so you should be a compassionate individual that visits the sick. And Mahakadosh Baruch Hu Koiva Meisim, and just like God, he buries the dead. Avata, you should do the Chesed Shalames, the final act of kindness, and make sure that you're involved in the end days of people's lives, especially if they cannot afford it. Comes along the Gemara in Soita and tells us the following. Omer Rabbi Simloi. Rabbi Simloi said, Torah, Tchilosa Gemilas Chasadim, its beginning is with loving kindness, V'soifa Gemilas Chasadim, and its end is Gemilas Chasadim. Dichsiv, as it is written, Vaya'as Hashem Elokim le'adam u'l'ishto kisnos or, that God made for them a beged, a clothing of leather. Vayalbishem, and he clothed them, he adorned them. V'soifa gemilas chasadim, and the Torah's end with gemilas chasadim. Dichsiv, vayikover uso bagai, and he buried him there in the valley. There are two approaches to Yiddishkeit, my friends. There is what was called the Nevardik approach, and there was called the Slabotka approach. The Nevardik approach was Atashofo, Tia'onov, Mikol Adam. You need to be meek and humble. You're lower than a pregnant cockroach. Who are you to raise your head anything in the world? Walk around with your head bowed. You're no better than the lowliest of lows. That you come from a future trap. And where are you going? To a decaying and rotten corpse. This is the Nevardik Yeshita. So make sure. So the Muslim movement of the Nevardik tells us that you are meek and humble all the days of your life. Comes along the Slabotki Yeshiva. And it's a complete 180 degrees. And what do they say? Bishvili nivra ha'olam. The world was created for me. Akiva's approach was Bishvili nivra ha'olam. And Akavya ben Mahalal's was, you're lower than low. Shefel v'ruach tipasucha v'oforim v'soleya. So let us return to the first maxim in this Mishnah of Rabbi Akiva. Chaviv Adam Shenivra B'Tzelem. Beloved is man that he was created in the image of God. Ki b'Tzelem Elokim Na'aseh Adam, because in the image of God man was created. So what is man's creation? How did it form? So the Torah tells us, Na'aseh Adam B'Tzalmeinu Kidnasenu. Let us make man in our image. So one interpretation of that pasuk is Na'aseh Adam B'Tzalmeinu Kidnasenu. I'd like to suggest that in the creation of man, Chaviv Adam Shenivra B'Tzelem, the Nivra Ha'olam, the small universe of mankind himself that is created, that each individual is a universe unto himself. He's his own dimension with the ability to procreate and create. So when this universe and this mankind was created, how was he created? He was formed by Gemilas Chasadim. Yes. And what was the Gemilas Chasadim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in that moment in time when he said, Na'aseh Adam B'Tzalmeinu Kidnasenu? So some say that means that God, he reached out to others. He reached out to the Malachim. And he consulted with them. He humbled himself. He was mitzamtzem. He contracted himself in order to include others in the formulation of mankind. Now, my Zaidi says that's not the pshat of Naiman Zatzal, that famed Talmud of the Briskenov says, no. Let us make man. He's not talking about the Malachim. The Torah is not talking about the Malachim, that he consulted with them, as if God needs to consult with Malachim. No. Not at all, my friends. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Na'aseh Adam B'Tzalmeinu Kidnasenu. Na'aseh, in the future tense, Adam B'Tzalmeinu Kidnasenu, will make man in our image. He's talking to you and me. You Adam, you Yehuda, you Yosef, you Ruvain, you Shimon, Levi, you Yisachar, Naftali, Gad v'Asher. Every one of you, if you walk with me, we'll together make a mensch out of you. You follow B'derech Hashem, and you'll walk in my ways, then you and me together, Hashem and you, holding each other's hand, will make a man out of you. Bishvili nivra ha'olam. For me, the world was created.